So Israel says the operations are to prevent weapons from reaching the Hezbollah. Can taking care of its national security be justified here?
Well, Israel has an interest in preventing Hezbollah getting the weapons, but the broader context is not just Syria, but also Iran. And I think that's where Turkey is caught in an awkward place, because Turkey, as your viewers have been hearing, is a historical military ally of Israel with a lot of cooperation between the Turkish military and the Israelis. But it also is a largely Islamic country, and it also borders Iran. And it could be a conduit for a potential airstrike into Iran through its own airspace that would make it much more difficult for the Iranians to detect something coming from Israel. And as I say, the Israelis worry that missiles sent from Iran to Hezbollah via Syria could be used as a revenge attack if they were to launch the much discussed preemptive strike to try and knock out Iranian nuclear facilities, whether by themselves or with the help of the Americans. And so I think that's the broader context, as well as what is actually happening inside Syria and the tensions between the Turkish government and the Syrian government, the Turkish government obviously being one of the key sponsors of the anti-Assad forces.
Yes, and if Turkey's involvement is confirmed, how will such an alliance affect the course of the conflict?
Well, I think the problem both for Turkey and for all the supporters of the anti-Assad forces is the relative weakness of their people on the ground that they're backing, partly because they're very divided. After all, this incident at Latakia came not long before the murder of one of the leading Free Syrian Army officers by so-called Al-Qaeda groups in the same area. So we see that within the Syrian so-called civil war, there's a civil war between the various rebel groups. There's a struggle for supremacy and for control of the weapons supplies which are coming through Turkey. And this, of course, is very worrying for many people in Turkey. The bomb attacks on the southern city of Rehanli was a big alarming signal, because people fear that the civil war could spread from Syria into Turkey, not least the religious sectarian war, because the attack was on largely Alawite type people, the sort of religious background which of course President Assad in Syria himself has. So the Turkish government, many people fear, is playing with fire by not simply permitting refugees to come into Turkey, but by permitting foreign fighters and weapons to enter Syria. Some of those people are not necessarily going to be very docile towards Turkey, not least towards the minorities in Turkey who they regard as allied with the Shiite Alawite groups that they hate in Lebanon, in Syria and in Iran.
Does it probably mean that Ankara is asking for trouble in the region if it has revived its ties with Tel Aviv?
It is very awkward, because whatever the truth of this is, and I think the rule of thumb in all international relations is not to be certain of anything until it's been officially denied, the problem is that Israel may find it quite useful for Turkey to be thought to be an active ally in its air power operations against Syria and potentially against Iran, so that even if the Israelis have plans perhaps to strike at Iran from a completely different direction, the risk is that the Turks and Turkey's territory will be held responsible, and Turkey could be drawn into a conflict. And this is, I think, a deeply destabilizing inside Turkey, because, if you like, the legacy of Ataturk was that Turkey should not become involved in foreign wars. That had been a disaster for the Ottoman Empire. The modern Turkish state was born 90 years ago out of escaping from playing a big power role. It wanted to be a country that had peace around it as well as peace at home. And now the religious sectarian element of being drawn into a conflict between Sunni Muslims and Shia Muslims, but also perhaps being drawn into an Israeli-Iranian proxy war, is, I think, a very destabilizing thing actually for Turkey. And it's of course partly just a fact of geography, but it is also partly a matter of decision by the government to take sides, albeit at arm's length, and that decision could yet backfire very badly.
All right, Mark Armand, historian and Middle East expert, thank you very much indeed for speaking to us. Thank you.